Hi there, my name's Vince from mymatevince.com, and in this video today we have what I think will hopefully be quite interesting. So it's a 1970s Stylophone, which has just come out of the box. Yeah, that definitely looks like it's got a bit of age to it. Made in England. So here it is. So it's one of these ones that where you press these things here, it's like a little piano. Do you know, I don't know if I've ever had a go on one of these or not. Right, okay, there is a break in the sheathing off the wire there, which was mentioned in the open. It says open here. That was mentioned in the description. So we've got an amplifier output here, Stylophone, nothing at the back, tuning. I presume the batteries go in here, so you must have to... Oh yeah, there we go. Alright, so it's a 9-volt battery. Look at all that, you can tell there's a bit of age to that. And also, do you know that kind of brown circuit board there? That does remind me of being a kid. Excellent, I'm looking forward to doing this one. So before we do any fiddling with it, let's put some batteries in, or a battery in, and let's see exactly what it does. So let me quickly show you the listing. It wasn't cheap. It's one of these things where there's no real much of a price difference between broken and working. So obviously if you wanted one, you would just pay the extra, you know, £5 or £10 to get a working one. But I want it for the video. Do you know what? That is actually metal there. To be fair, it does feel like quite nicely made. Right, let me show you the listing. So here it is here. It was expensive. It was £16.99 plus £4.99 postage. So that works out as £21.98. If I've got my maths right. Yeah, plenty of pictures on it, and they show the you know, the break in the wire and stuff like that. Right, let me just show you the description. It says here, vintage 70s Stylophone selling, not working, comes in original box, shop prop, man cave. So in other words, you can just use it for display. It said, we did try to test it and put a new battery in it, but it didn't work. There seems to be a tiny split in the white stylus cord as in the photo 3, which could be the problem, but I'm not sure. I've taken lots of photos, blah, 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 and all the rest of it. I don't think it is a split in that. I've never worked on one of these before, but what I'm thinking is that this is just like one continuous wire from here to here. So although the sheath is split, as long as the internal wire is not split, then there is going to make a connection. But I can just do a continuity test between, oh look at that, it's got like a resistor in the path. I can do a continuity test between here and the tip here, and then if there's continuity, hopefully that will be okay. Maybe we can even measure the resistor by just doing an ohms test. So I'm thinking it might be something different than that. But anyway, let's get some batteries in it and see what it does. Right, so pop it in. Like so. And let's turn it on. Oh, here we go. Right, organ on off, so turn it on there. But that doesn't go on nice. I think it's the switch. There we go. Oh. Okay, it's kind of working. That switch is dodgy. I think that's what the main problem was, because when you push it down, hopefully it's also going to have some sort of other fault, otherwise it's going to be one hell of a boring video. But look, basically, see this one here? It clicks down properly, but with this one, well, okay, it does now. There, see, it doesn't there. You have to go that extra bit. What's this do? Oh, okay. I think this just needs a clean. I think that's all it needs. Ah, that's annoying, because I don't actually need a Stylophone. I just wanted an interesting fix for the video. And when I seen that split on the wire, I thought, well, it's not going to be that. So I wanted to do some fault finding through the components. Right, so what does this thing do here? It says tuning. So let's see if this does anything. Oh, so is that the speed? Okay, I'm disappointed. Well, so what I'm going to do is just clean it. I think that's all it needs. Put some IPA, maybe some deoxit. God, that's hard to come off. Maybe some deoxit down the switch. Let's take this apart here just to see what it looks like inside. That's the problem when you buy things you don't know. I mean, obviously most people would be happy that it's working because you can get it for less than a working one. But nobody really wants to see a video on just cleaning a switch. But I suppose it is real life, isn't it? That's what sometimes happens. Sometimes you get things that are just a little bit of corrosion on the battery. Oh, so here we have it, here, look. Oh, and there's a knot there to stop it being pulled out too far. Right. So I was just looking at this here. If there was a chance of opening it up, then you could just probably pull out some more slack off the wire, or maybe even replace that wire. But it's all sealed, so I don't think that's going to happen. Funny enough, when I was looking at other ones, they also had a split. So I think it's probably where it goes in here, and then this gets forced down over the years, because that's going to get forced down in there, I think, or maybe this way around. Over the years, that must be where it kind of gets trapped. Oh, look here, it says push here. So you push it here, and then it lifts up here for you being able to grab it. So that's what's happening, it's just getting caught there all the time. Right, so what am I going to clean here? I'm going to clean all these here because they're a little bit corroded. Not corroded, just a bit of kind of like surface dust and dirt. I'm going to clean up this contact here, make that good. And then I'm going to pour some IPA into this switch to try to free it up, because in fact it's already starting to free now. Yeah, but I'm going to put some IPA in there to free that up a little bit. And these little, potentiometers here, or variable resistor and variable resistor there, I'm just going to clean up the tracks and stuff around them as well. Don't know what this one's for. This one's for tuning, it says, which makes the sort of sound, the pitch different. But I'm not sure what this particular one is for, so I'm not going to be moving this one here. The capacitors haven't blown after all these years. They haven't they're not bulging or leaking, which is pretty impressive. WL. Some of these companies probably don't even exist anymore. Erie. WL. It's nice seeing the old electronics, isn't it? Right, let's get cleaning. Just going to be using IPA to begin with, 99.9% alcohol. And I'm just going to drop it into the switch and keep moving them around. Hopefully it will work its way in there. It bends these little tabs back down because they look to this one on this side here. Actually, there's a hairline break in it, and that's what's making it hard to push down. But hopefully if I get the tab and push it down, it will force it back. Let me show you. So if you have a look, this here is the on and off switch, and look, can you see this little bit here going down here? There's a little break in it, see? Here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to force down, and also this one here, this tab is barely on it at all. So I'm just going to force all these tabs back down, because what's happening is when you push the switch, this whole brown thing's kind of pushing up, and it's hard for the switch to actually go down. While if I get the circuit board down, then I think the switch will work better. So I'm just going to force these things back down. I can actually see a tiny little break here at the corner as well, look at that. Yeah, I suppose it's becoming brittle. Would this be Bakelite, I wonder? It looks a bit like Bakelite, doesn't it? Hard plastic of the 70s. That could well be Bakelite, because maybe this design was a throwback for a few years, quite a few years before that. Right, okay, they're definitely in a lot better now. Let's see if the switch is going to work. Oh, that's nicer. Yeah. Can you hear it's like a proper confirmation click? Yeah, I'm happy with that, definitely. Right, let's add a bit more IPA in there. Right, now I'm just going to clean up these keys. And also the tip of the stylus as well. Well, you can see a little bit of dirt, not too bad. Yeah, there definitely is dirt on it. I'm going to clean the tip of the stylus as well. You know, for that I'm going to get a little bit of sandpaper just to get a shine back on it. Right, I've just got a bit of wet and dry. Yeah, that's shined up the tip of it now. So it should make a good clean contact. So Before we put it back together, let's just sort of roughly work out if we can work out what's happening. So I'm just going to count how many resistors there are, because I think the resistors are going to equal the same amount of keys. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Right, so there's 20 keys, so let's see if there's 20 resistors. 20, and there's 20 resistors. So I suppose each key, these must all be increasing by just, you know, so many, I don't know, whatever, kiloohms per one. In fact, maybe we can measure that and that will give us an idea. Right, so let's start on, this is going to be the low side here, isn't it, over this side? Yeah, low and then higher, right. So let's start here. Right, 1.7 kiloohms. So now, let's take a guess, what's it going to be? 1.7. So it's going to be allowing, this is the lower end. Would higher be? Well, I don't actually know. Let's see. But it should be all going in one way. Right, so now that's 1.2. So we got that one to that one, 1.2. So I wonder now, is this one going to be like 0.7 or 700 ohms? No, that's 1.2 as well. Okay, hold on. 1.29, 1.24. Why was there such a big jump between here and here then? 1.7. 0.99. So you can see they're all getting closer to, so they're all getting less resistance, aren't they, as we go along? Getting closer to 1 ohm. So now we're at 747 ohms, 661, 555, 661. So it's going about 90. So this one should be about 460. Yeah, 460. Now 370-ish. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I'm pretty confident that it's these things that are creating the different sounds. So if you want to have a bit of fun, 1 second, what was that one? Yeah, 330, so that's going down less now. If you want to have a bit of fun, if I was to place this resistor over here, then it would suddenly go like, you know, low, so it would go high, then it would go low, 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 low. Sorry, if I was to swap one here with one here, then you would have the opposite. So for example, this one would be high, and then this would be low. So it would be high, low, low, getting higher and higher and higher. And then this one at the very end would be low. I think that's what would happen. Right, so what I've done is I've just added in a 560 ohm resistor onto just a random one in the middle. And what I was expecting is, because when we took the ohm readings, we were going from, for example, like whatever it was, 1200 ohms all the way down to 30 ohms or 40 or 50 ohms. So we were getting less and less resistance as we were traveling down this way. Okay, so we were getting less resistance. So we're getting less resistance as we go up here. So I would have thought the higher resistance was causing the low sounds and the lower resistance was causing the high sounds. But now what I've done is I've put a resistor in here which is similar, when you add these two together, they're similar to the ones here. So for example, just very quickly, basically it hasn't made any difference. So if I was to go on this, let's say third one here, okay, so remember this is the low side of the board. You can see that we've got 1200 ohms, yep. And now if we were to go on here, this is the one that I've done, you can see that we've got 1000 ohms. But if you look at the one next to it here, you can see there's quite a big difference. So we go from like 500 ohms, and this side we've got 380 ohms. So you would think that it would, if my theory was right, which obviously it's not, you would think it would go low, low, higher, 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 low, high, 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 and carry on. But it doesn't. Look at this. Basically, there's no difference. Yeah, so I don't know what's going on there. So my theory is completely wrong. I thought that it was those resistors that was controlling the actual sounds that was coming out. But I'm wrong. So if you know why that's not working, could you sort of try to explain that in a way that someone like myself would understand? In other words, pretend you're chatting to somebody that's 8 years old and you have to explain to them how the sound is made on different keys. I really thought that would have done. Really thought that would have been it. Oh well. Sometimes it's worth experimenting just to prove yourself wrong. Right, okay, so that's back together as it was before. So let's pop this in, do up the screws. Here's the final result. So yeah, it's come up clean. It was pretty much perfect anyway. I'm not going to worry about the tiny little crack in the corner. That's probably just from forcing down the battery compartment all the time. I suppose that's going to be the weak spot there. But if you have a look at the switches now, basically, can you see they just work? You can hear that nice confirmation click. And here we go. There you go, even tapping it works. So beforehand it was just dirty contacts between here and here, probably more likely to be this here. So yeah, that's it. And this is with the vibrato, is it called? That sounds quite nice. And let's just see what happens when I do the tuning thing. So let's go all the way one way. Okay, that was on E. And let's go all the way the other way. Okay, so it's higher, isn't it? So if I hold it I could do this as my music so I don't get any copyright claims. I could see how quick I could lose all my subscribers. There we have it. Will I ever use this? Realistically, no. Do I quite like it? It's okay. I mean, it does look from that era, doesn't it? So, I mean, just the idea of, look, pocket electronic organ, like dancing along to somebody playing it. It's, look, it's part of history. So, yeah, that is it. What was wrong with it? All that was wrong with it was the fact that the tip needed cleaning and these needed cleaning, but the main reason that the seller said it didn't work was because of this switch here. This switch on the right hand side worked properly. When you push this one down here, all it did was go down without properly clicking into place. All that was happening was, on the inside, it was bending it rather than kind of going onto the proper thing. It was just like pushing it out like that. So by me wiggling it, even at the beginning, past the bit where you push it, wiggle it a bit more, it clicked into place. So yeah, I mean, from my point of view, a very boring fix. The only interesting thing was those resistors. I was sure when I measured them and they were all going up relatively, well, not linear, but you know, they were definitely all going in one direction, that I would have thought by changing out the resistor to one from this side of it would have caused that key to make the sound from the key over here. But it didn't make any difference whatsoever. And it was definitely connected because it was working. So what's happening there? If you could add that to the comments, that would be interesting for me. And just quickly cut this bit in at the end of the video. I'll go back to the real video in a few seconds. But do you know here it says amplified output? Yes, it certainly does. Why you want it louder than it already is, I'm not too sure. But if you have a look here, and now it's coming through here. Another quick edit to the video. Apologies, I'll go back to the original one in a minute, but I looked in the box and I thought, okay, yeah, it's got a thick liner, and then I thought, I wonder if it comes out, and look, we've got some maths on here, and we've got some instructions as well. Made in England, tuning control in bass, general hints. The stylophone is tuned to concert pitch before it leaves the factory. You may wish to accompany a record or another instrument which is not quite in tune with the stylophone. The pitch may be altered very simply. Turn the stylophone on its side and with the stylus held firmly on one of the keys, tune the tuning control in either direction until the correct pitch is obtained. Playing. Here we go. Should the stylophone emit a crackling noise when played, the keyboard and stylus tips should be cleaned with a light abrasive metal cleaner. So it's all it is all here. A smoothing effect is obtained by sliding the stylus along the keyboard in preference to picking the notes out separately. In addition to the, I don't know how to say that word. Is it vibrato? Vibrato. And flat tone. Other variations can be achieved by the use of one hand over the speaker grill. This also acts as a volume control. So I suppose by putting your palm of your hand over the speaker, you can affect it that way as well. Oh, here we go. Look, we've got some little the melody and the harmony of Silent Night and the Londonderry Air. Cricklewood Broadway, NW2. Been to Cricklewood many times. Right, okay, but look at this. We've got some maths going on here, and I have checked out to see if they are correct, and judging by my calculations, well, I've done these ones here, I haven't done these ones here. Let's do this one quickly. 7, 9, that's correct. 5, 7, 9. And a bit of times tables here, nice picture of a boat, and Mr. Nosy there. So yeah, it's kind of nice, isn't it? I would say that whoever had this would probably be well in their 40s now, or possibly 50s. So yeah, that is it. Let's get back to the original video. Okay, so I'd finished up that video after those 2 bits that I added in, that you've just seen, and I was editing it up, and then I went to make some lunch, and then I had a thought. The reason why one resistor didn't make any difference is because it's not just calculating one resistor, it's adding up all the resistors, because I think from memory, when I looked at it, the traces were at angles like this. So each of the resistors, although the resistors are straight, they're joining up in series to each other as they go along. So basically, it's not going to make a difference just changing one resistor, because it's calculating all the resistors together. And then depending on where you press it, depends on whether you're at the beginning of the resistors or near the end of the resistors as a whole. So I need to take it apart to double check that, but that would make more sense. A bit like a Scalextric controller, or do you remember this water powered car thing where you add water to it and then it starts to work, water activated, let's call it. See this knob at the front here? When you turn this knob, the faster it goes, turn it the opposite way and the slower it goes, because in here on that knob, when you turn it, there's just a copper finger that moves like this. So you turn it here and there's a copper finger on the inside that moves, and there's basically a coil of wire, just like the Scalextric controllers, the old-fashioned ones. There's a coil of wire going along, and the resistance is different on this side than this side. So for example, if you're measuring it here, it might be near enough a complete short, but then as you measure it over here, it might be, I'm making this up now, but let's call it like, I don't know, 400 ohms or something like that. And depending on where the copper finger is, depends on how much power is getting to that motor. So if it's this side, it's going really fast, and if it's this side, it's going really slow. So let's pretend now that this is the same thing. It's a coil going all the way across, and this side here, you're going to have high resistance, and this side here you're going to have low resistance. So this is one side of the coil and this is the other side of the coil, and depending on where we hit the coil will depend on the sound that's made going through at the end, because this makes the circuit, and then this is where, you know, so for example here it will be 500 ohms, here it will be 1200 ohms, here it will be 50 ohms. Do you get what I mean? So that's what's changing the tone. So basically by just changing one resistor, all you've done is vary it by a tiny amount, because I only added in 500 ohms into it. So if we were to add up all the ohms, remember they were like thousands up here, so like 1,000, 2,000, and then like 3,000, 4,000, 5, there might be in total like 5,000 ohms going right the way across here. So by putting in an extra 5 ohms, all we've done is kind of shift the scale a little bit by 10%. So I reckon if we were to change them all and maybe make it, I'm making this up now, but maybe like 15,000 ohms to 5,000 ohms, maybe that would be the same as the scale before this, a lower scale, just like on a piano, you have a repeat, but just, is it called a higher key? Not musical, as you can tell by my playing, but I think there's different keys on the piano, or different scales or something on the piano, but definitely you will have one set of notes down the bottom, then another set of notes, then another set of notes, then another set of notes. So you will have many Cs throughout the piano, like middle C and then a lower C and then a higher C. So I think then if you were to, for example, this is one scale here, you could have another scale below, and above here if you were to change all the resistors, and then that would produce a different scale again. I think that's how it's working. It makes sense in my head. I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly or not, but if you just think of it like a coil, and depending on where you hit it, so this side is high resistance and this side is low resistance. So think of it like the motor in this, and this is the copper finger, and basically the motor's here. So if we're touching here, the motor's going super quick. If we're touching here, the motor's going slow. And the more we move up the coil, the quicker that motor is going. So now let's see if that's the case, because I was looking at these resistors here and they're all you know, they're all nice and straight, but I didn't take any attention to it. But it was only afterwards I thought that I remembered seeing that the things were all at the actual tracks themselves are at an angle. So these I think are all in series with each other. In fact, can we not just tell that from here by doing a continuity? So if we were to go between here and here, or would it be here and here? There, look, there and there, but not here and here. Can you see that? This one will be connected to here, yeah? This one's connected to here. So there we go, we've proved it. This one's, this one's connected to here. Let's have a look. Right, so let's zoom in a bit. So have a look now. So can you see, look, resistor across here, but then that goes to there, and the resistor straight down, which we can't see on the other side. Track goes to there, straight down, straight down, straight down to there. That goes up to there, that's joined to that one. So these ones are now in, yeah, they're also in series with each other, up to there. But that jump, oh no, that doesn't, because there's a hole here. So look, they are, aren't they? Look, they're all joined together, because that's joining there. Can you see? So it's the total amount as a whole. So you're never going to get a duff sort of note in the middle of it. You're not. It's always going to be on a sliding scale, isn't it? Always. There's no way of making this particular key here much lower or much higher than the others, as far as I can see, unless you were to, well, I suppose there is a way of doing it if you were to sort of like break some tracks and do some jumper wires and stuff, but the only thing we could do is by, if we were to add some big resistors across here, then it would probably make the whole scale lower, even more so than just changing this. That's what I think anyway. So yeah, I'm kind of glad that, look, I could be wrong, I'm not saying I'm right, I think I'm right, but yeah, I'm glad I looked at that again. So, because I was sort of confused before, but now that makes more sense. So yeah, that is it for the video. I was initially a little bit disappointed when it was just a fault with the switch, but now I'm kind of happy that I've worked that bit out. I mean, loads of things are just either corroded battery terminals or faulty switches. Loads of the old stuff you buy on eBay from the 60s, 70s and 80s will just have a combination of just corroded battery terminals, or the switches have just got dirty and oxidized throughout the year. So there is plenty of easy fixes still to be had. It's just that for videos they don't make it as interesting, but for me now that has become more interesting because I think I've worked out how the Stylophone works. Obviously not all these things up here, but just the basic of the keys anyway. So yeah, that is it for this video. Let's just pop this back together. Let's just make sure it is still definitely okay. That's it, all done. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe for more Trying to Fix videos. Take care, bye now.